Hello, this is Ralph Oliva, Director of ISBM, with an ISBM Quick Facts overview on the foundation concepts, the basic language of value, which actually is at the core of a lot of the instruction we do on value-based business marketing at ISBM. These are important basic concepts. As we work with ISBM member firms, we still often find the process of cost-based pricing, where people take a look at their total cost, they add what they feel is an acceptable margin, and that's how they set price. We advise strongly against that. Price and cost are fundamentally unrelated. Price and cost are fundamentally unrelated. We believe in price always being set on the value of the offering to the customer. Now, there are a couple of problems with cost-based pricing that make it ill-advised. First of all, do you really know your cost? Whether you're using traditional costing or activity-based costing, often a cost is set up by the finance side of a firm to achieve different objectives. And cost-based pricing, it really relies on the fact that you know your cost. And in fact, do you really ever know your cost? In my experience and the experience of ISBM, knowing the true cost of a total offering, particularly in a large firm with a lot of overhead, very difficult to know. But by and large, if you're pricing on cost and not on value, you usually are leaving money on the table. Really understanding the value of your offering for a particular customer in a particular application, a critical foundation to doing business marketing and especially to setting price. So the term customer value is very important to us, and we ask the question, what should this mean when applied to a total offering? And we always use the term offering rather than just product. Typically, between a seller and a buyer, what's being intended is an offering. Even if you're selling a raw chemical product, it at least has your brand wrapped around it in most cases. So we prefer the term offering. What should the value of an offering be? And what is it when it's applied between a seller and a buyer? So here's the definition that we would prefer, that customer value is the economic impact compared to the next best alternative, compared to what is the customer using now, that your offering has on a customer's business. The economic impact usually comes from increasing a customer's revenue flow and or decreasing a customer's cost of operations. And once again, we're using the term offering here that may have at its core a tangible product or service, but wrapped around it are things like your brand, your relationships, know-how, everything that goes with the offering. Now, sometimes we hear that customer value is whatever the customer says it is, but that by and large is not true. We use the term customer perceived value to take into account and explain a customer's current understanding of an offering's economic impact on their business. Now, perceived value may be, and usually is, less than the customer value because the customer may not be aware of the total value delivery unless you take time as a supplier to explain it. Or a customer may all too well know the value of your offering in their business, and they may take a lower value position to negotiate price. So we'd use this simple line chart to explain the situation where firms start out as a supplier and they buy things, make external purchases. They do things that adds to the total cost of the offering, which may or may not be well known. And by doing that, and by really understanding customers' problems and solving them, create real customer value, the top of the bar. Now, the customer perceived value may or may not be equal to the customer value. When you as a supplier work together with your customers in your supply chain to solve problems, create answers, and bring new things to the market, you're creating value. And at this point, we say that you're playing a positive sum game. When we do that together, we're growing the gross domestic product, and it's actually a win-win. More value for the customer and the opportunity for more margin for us as a supplier. So by understanding our customers' problems, solving them, bringing them better alternatives, we've actually created value in the world, in the marketplace for our customer. And at this point, again, we're playing a win-win or positive sum game. But at this point, a price decision has to be made. And price is actually the knife that slices this value, the value created, into a piece for the customer and a piece for us. Now, historically, Dr. Irv Gross, founding director of ISBM, would usually tell the folks he was teaching this is, well, price is the knife that cuts the value pie into a piece for the customer and a piece for you. But people would say, well, that doesn't look like a pie, Irv. So Irv, being a bit of a comedian, coined the term the value salami. And that's an image that has lived with ISBM members for many, many years. Price is the knife that distributes value and cuts the salami into a piece for the customer and a piece for you as the supplier. So there are really two games going on as we work in the marketplace. There's the positive sum game where we cooperate with customers, we solve their problems and create new value. That's a win-win positive sum game. But then when we make a pricing decision, we're playing more of a zero-sum game, more for me, less for you. It's a win-lose game. And that's an important element of the whole business of buying and selling in any market, that we create value together, focus on that, and explain the value. And then we make a pricing decision that allows for that value to be shared in ways that are positive, both for the buyer and the seller, in dividing the value and playing the zero-sum game in a way where everyone comes out with a good deal. So pricing to us is a matter of dividing the value created. This is slicing this value salami into pieces where we get a fair margin for our economic driving force to do business, but the customer gets a quantifiable piece of value, their economic driving force, for doing business with us, that they can then take. They can take that value and move it into their value chain and down to their customers. So this is the value taxonomy that we use to explain the relationships between value, costs, and prices, the value salami. On the left, from the supplier's point of view, suppliers buy things and external purchases. At the bottom of the chart, they do things that add to a total cost, which you may or may not know well. But if we do our job well, up to the top of that bar on the left, we create real customer value. The customer may or may not perceive that value, and part of our job as marketers is moving the perceived value up to the customer value as much as we can. Price is now the knife that slices this into a piece for the customer, their incentive to buy. How much better, how much more differentiated value, moving to the bar at the right, do they have moving to our offering? Does it help the customer increase revenue? Does it help the customer increase or decrease the cost of operations? And finally, there's a piece for us, our incentive to supply, something that covers our total cost plus leaves us with an acceptable margin. This simple, powerful taxonomy is a powerful graphic way to explain the relationship between value, costs, and prices in business-to-business markets. This is Ralph Oliva.